everybody. Greetings from the county line. As you know, if you've been following me all summer long, I've ventured into town to try and find some major dudes, people who can cut through the clutter and tell us what's really going on in the world. And last month, we celebrated Veterans Day. Everybody that had a military cap on got thanked for their service, I guess. But I was surprised to see a Rand's poll that indicated the priorities of things that people expressed gratitude for. And, you know, there were things like family and of course, God and having a roof over my head. But nowhere in that list did I see anybody mention gratitude for the fact that we live in the most prosperous and free nation in the world, nor did they express gratitude for the men and women who make that possible for us, those people who stand on the forward wall of our way of life every day. So I wanted to come out and try and introduce you to some of the members of our armed forces in our local community. And it's an honor today to have Staff Sergeant Morse with us from the United States Marine Corps.
Yeah,
welcome.
It's an honor to be in this presence, to be able to reach out to the community and kind of show everyone what Marines are all about. So I definitely appreciate that and your service as well, sir.
Are you from here?
I'm not from here. I'm originally from a small town just outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, about 45 minutes, a little town called Aliquippa. So,
tell us something about yourself. Where did you come from, and why the Marine Corps?
Yeah, so I actually grew up as a Navy brat. My dad was in the Navy for 20 years, and I got to do a little bit of traveling. My parents actually met and got married out in Pittsburgh, where I was born. And then eventually I was able to go to a little place of paradise called Hawaii. I was out there for 7 years and, you know, spent my elementary years out there before eventually my dad retiring, ending his watch, and coming back to the Pittsburgh area. So I went through high school and middle school all through there. I was a band kid. I was a pretty big nerd. But, you know, whenever it came time to my senior year of high school, I had one of my friends who was like, "Hey, I just need you to talk to my recruiter. Just kind of hear out some information, kind of see what we can kind of do for you." And I'd never been opposed to military at all. Obviously, my dad served. I wasn't 100% sure what I was going to do. I was thinking about potentially going to college, but still had everything up in the air. Still trying to figure everything out during my senior year. Mm-hmm. So I went in, I talked to him. Talk to him about, you know, what my plans are for my future, and kind of how the Marine Corps can help me out with that. And one of the things that kind of caught my eye was I'm originally a musician. I actually played the tuba.
You were kind of a nerd.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I played the tuba. Yeah, the big thing.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of that.
Yeah, no, I was like, during my freshman year, I was the only tuba player we had, and then I did a little bit of recruiting and got some of the new freshmen in to come play tuba as well. But yeah, and one of the things that kind of caught my eye was, like, obviously the Marine Corps band. Kind of hearing about the professionalism and dedication that they have and compared to everybody else. And the idea of being a professional musician was something that, you know, kind of interested me a little bit. And, you know, it was something that I was kind of there to, you know, kind of see if I could do. And of course, talking to my mom about it at first, she was like, "Oh, you're going to go to the Marines, like could have gone to any other branch." But I was like, no, I just want to be a part of the best. So I ended up doing the process and, you know, did the audition, did all right for myself, but ultimately I decided to, you know, kind of go down a different path. I always see myself more as a left-brained thinker. Even though I had played music for so long, I knew that I didn't want to have a career in music. I wanted to do something different, something with like technology or whatnot. And so ultimately I decided to become a communications Marine. I joined to be able to work on computers, and that's what I've been doing for the last 7 years. So I ended up going to Parris Island out in South Carolina, did my Marine Corps recruit training there, and then eventually became a data systems administrator. And from there, I worked on computers and building servers and doing a whole bunch of cool things within like the IT cybersecurity realm all over the world. I've My first duty station, I was in New Orleans, Louisiana. Great place, great culture, and definitely a cool place to be for your first duty station. And then I actually got the opportunity to go back to Hawaii. I requested to go back there. I was there for the last 3 years, and eventually time came for me to come on recruiting duty, and now I'm out here in Indiana.
So recruiting even for a Marine isn't a full-time job. It's
No. With the Marines, we only are needing to recruit for at minimum 3 years. So if you do like it and do have a really big passion for it, you can become a career recruiter. But for the most part, most Marines are only doing recruiting duty for 3 years.
So why the Marine Corps?
So the biggest thing that kind of motivated me with the Marine Corps was that sense of excellence. Trying to be a part of something that was better than myself and trying to be the best at it. Of course, that ultimately started with the Marine Corps band, but as I had kind of developed myself, I realized that Marines, we do see a lot of things differently. We have gone throughout our entire history and have done one thing, and that is, completed whatever mission and task that has been given to us in the best way that we possibly can. It doesn't matter if it's with all this high fancy technology or if it's with a couple boxes of rocks and some sticks. Like Marines, we just get the job done. It doesn't matter.
It all comes down in the Marine Corps to a pissed off 19-year-old with a rifle, doesn't it?
Yeah, it tends to be the case, especially if you look back through the history. So definitely has been. But we have that sense of exorcism
and that kind of heritage appealed to you. Why?
I think the main reason why it appealed to me is that, I wanted to make something for myself. I wanted to be able to be in a place where they would be able to foster an environment to allow me to succeed. And with the Marine Corps, the biggest thing about it is, without the actual Marines and the culture and the spirit that we kind of have in trying to be the best, we wouldn't have the Marine Corps. And that's something that I've been able to see throughout even my short time in the Marines. I've only been in for about 7.5 years, but the trust and confidence that we put into our junior Marines. It doesn't matter if you've been in for just a couple years, a couple months, a couple of days. We know and we have this standard and expectation for our junior Marines, and we give those Marines those challenges. We tell them, hey, this is what you're going to do. Go do it. And if you end up having any issues, we'll be there along the way for you to support you. But at the end of the day, we are going to give you these challenges. We are going to do things in a way where you are going to be able to positively grow from that. And that's everything that I've been able to experience within my time is a whole lot of challenges that really wasn't it was any physically demanding challenges. It was more mental challenges, having to overcome problems with not all the right answers and really being able to have to just figure things out for my own. And I think that's what's really helped me along the way is definitely the experience that I've been able to receive within my job, working in cybersecurity and IT, and having that opportunity afforded to me.
How does the Marine Corps instill that kind of mind thought into young Marines that you think maybe the Air Force or the Army doesn't?
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that comes down to is, our expectations during recruit training. Our recruit training obviously is the longest and it's the hardest. And the drill instructors that they have there at Paris Island and San Diego, they know the limit that we need to push Marines to reach that excellence, to reach that greatness. The drill instructors are there to manufacture failures in ways that you've never really seen before, but it's all there to be able to get you to that level of perfection. You may think that you're doing it right and just due to repetitions, but having those people who are there who are absolute perfectionists that are there to really guide you and mentor you in that way. And as well, obviously there's all the discipline and other things that are instilled into you, but I think one of the biggest things with the Marine Corps as well is really the brotherhood and the bonds that you make along the way and the people that are there to push you. Our core values are honor, courage, and commitment, and those are things that are instilled within every single Marine. And it doesn't matter if it's Marines that are just now joining today or Marines that are still Marines but have obviously served their tour of duty. They're still Marines. And
why is that unique to the Marine Corps, though?
It's unique to the Marine Corps because, Marine, it's a title that's earned. It's not something that we just give out to anybody. You look at all of the other branches, they're in the Army, they're a private day one. In the Navy, they're seaman day one. In the Air Force, they're airman day one. But in the Marines, the first day you get there and stand on those yellow footprints, you're not a Marine, you're a recruit. And you have to be able to develop that. And as you start to go through the process and go through those 13 weeks of training, at the end of it, there is a culminating event called the Crucible. And that's where everything that you've done over your time is tested and compacted into a 54-hour event where, that's where it's the time to figure out if you have what it's made for. And at the end of that time, if you go through that 54-hour event and come out victorious, either on the parade deck of Paris Island or atop of the Reaper in San Diego, you earn that title. And that's something that you keep with you forever. It's not something that anybody could ever take away.
Do you find that a lot of recruits are intimidated by Marine boot camp?
I feel like not so much the recruits are intimidated. Of course, there is always, with our poolies and whatnot, the fear of the unknown. But I don't think they're too much intimidated by it.
I mean, you mentioned earlier that you'd been challenged mentally a lot, but not so much physically. I've seen pictures of that boot camp, and it looks pretty physical to me.
And it is a physical thing, but the thing that we have for every single applicant that comes in, it doesn't matter that you're not ready to be a Marine at this right now given time. We have what's called the delayed entry program. That's the program where us as the recruiters start that transformation process for you. We make sure that you're going to be ready to become a United States Marine. That way, the day that you're shipping off for recruit training, you know that you're ready for those challenges. And yes, there are some physical challenges, but with recruit training, it really is about 80% mental and 20% physical. There is some physical demands whenever it comes to it, but it's not like it's training where you're physically worn down every single day. It really is more that mental aspect, being in a new place, being challenged in unique ways, and really not giving up on yourself. For the recruits that are in recruit training right now, they're pushing to strive to become something greater. And the ones that ultimately fizzle out are ones that ultimately give up on themselves.
Is that how you condition these recruit Marines to be able to handle these mental challenges that they face in boot camp?
Yes, of course, and it's something that we give them the expectations. Not only do we do the physical aspect of what they should be expecting at recruit training, but we also show them hey, this is how you talk to a drill instructor. This is what you're going to expect throughout your time in recruit training. And of course, there's going to be times for me as a recruiter to give them a little bit more of what that's going to look like. Giving them an example of hey, this is what a drill instructor is going to sound like whenever they scream at you. And, all it is just them yelling at you.
So they can still do that.
Yeah.
It's a Full Metal Jacket experience.
It's not a total Full Metal Jacket experience. Even the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps has stated that the drill instructors know that line, and they're going to take you to that line to push you, but they're not going to go past it.
Sure.
It's not like it's a time, even whenever I was in, where it's, there's any sort of kind of hazing or physical abuse or anything like that. That's been completely nicked out of the entirety of Marine Corps training, because we're so much more reliant on those younger Marines. We want to make sure that we're fostering an environment where they feel cared for, and they're going to be able to succeed, and they want to be a part of this brotherhood.
What's the washout rate in boot camp?
I'm not sure on the exact statistics, but what I can say is for everyone that we have gone through and has come successful on the other side, it was because they continue to push themselves. For the few individuals that we have had, it's because that they just gave up on themselves in some sort of kind of way. And the drill instructors, they can only do so much, but whenever it comes to a point where, someone is refusing to train, that's where drill instructor can't really help anymore. But as long as they're continuing to give that effort and show, they may be struggling in some of the areas whenever it comes to some of the different standardized testings that we do, but they put in that effort. They may get rolled back a week or whatnot, but at the end of the day, if they continue to put in that effort, they're going to earn that title Marine.
Everything in the Marines is about the infantrymen, isn't it?
100% incorrect.
I mean, I read recently that even Marine Air Power, which is awesome, is all directed to help the guy on the ground, the people on the ground.
Yes. So with the Marine Corps, we obviously are an expeditionary fighting force. But in all reality, 80% of our jobs are all non-combat oriented MOSs. The other 20%, they are. But yes, every Marine is supporting in the mission of the infantry, but that does not mean that by being a Marine, you are going to be an infantryman and kicking in doors or doing any of those other things. You're going to be in direct support of that. That does not mean that you're going to be on the front lines fighting in any kind of way.
Well, I remember a few years ago, your commandant, and I can't remember what his name was now, forgive me, but he said, every Marine has to be a rifleman first.
and that is the case. Every Marine is taught the basics of what it means to be an infantryman. That does not mean that all these Marines that we have are going to just get pulled in and get put out into a situation, honestly, because they aren't really trained for it. They're more trained for their jobs and what they're doing, but every Marine is ready in that sense to be a rifleman.
And even in your job in communications, it was geared towards supporting a 19-year-old with a rifle on a front line someplace.
In some aspects, it's with a lot of our jobs, it is just general support, especially in something like communications. But whether it's me working a computer supporting some colonel that is doing planning and operations, or supporting a staff sergeant that is in charge of his infantrymen, that all is in support of it. But none of our training is different where we are training to do those things. It's just like how it would be in any other branch, really.
What happens when a recruit becomes a Marine and now he's ready to move into the big Marine Corps?
Yeah, so normally the training pipeline for every single Marine is that they are going to obviously do recruit training that is 13 weeks long, and then for any non-combat related MOS, they're going to go to what's called Marine Corps combat training. That's where they learn the very basic foundation of what it means to be a rifleman. It's a 28 day long course, and afterwards they would go to their schoolhouse, their military occupational specialty. They would go there, they learn the basic foundations of what their job is, and then after that, they go off to their unit, whether if it's an active duty component and they're going to be going anywhere around the globe, or if it's within a reserve component and they're going to be coming back to a place like here in Indiana. So,
what's a normal day in the life of a Marine look like?
A normal day in the life of a Marine, we do take physical fitness very important. So, most of the times we have Marines that are, getting up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, getting a nice little workout in, making sure that they get a little bit of sweat out of their systems. And then after that, they go shower, and then they go get their breakfast. And normal reporting time in for Marines is around 8 o'clock in the morning.
So the morning starts at early.
Yeah, most of the times. It really is depending on the units. There are some units where, it's a grown man organization. You go take care of yourself in whatever way you need to, but be at work at 8 a.m.
Okay.
But there are other units that are the bigger units where, we want to be able to continue to have that bond, have that brotherhood. We're going to come together to a centralized location, just work out, just to make sure that we're all doing the same thing, holding other Marines accountable, because at the end of the day, that's part of the brotherhood is not only, supporting and having that support network for yourself, but supporting your other Marines and holding them accountable in different ways. But yeah, it really just depends on where you're at in the Marine Corps.
It's kind of like a job then. You get up, except with the
just
everybody has to exercise.
A little bit of workout. Gotta maintain the standards of what it means to be part of one of the world's best, not one of the world's best fighting force. Got to maintain that standard, but most of the time it's just a normal work day. You're working from 8 a.m. to around 11 noon, and you get a little break for lunch, whether it's an hour or 2 hours, and then after that, you're coming back at most likely 1 o'clock and work until 4:30, 5 o'clock.
Well, what if you're assigned to like a rifle platoon?
So a lot of the times what our rifle platoons are doing is if they're not doing some sort of kind of annual training or anything like that, they would be going out to the field and doing some more training. But really the trainings of how they go things, it really depends. It could be 1 week that they're out in the field doing different exercises, or it could just be, hey, this week all we're going to be doing is going to different ranges. I'm not 100% sure just because I'm not an infantryman by trade, but just from what I've heard around the Marine Corps, it could be relatively relaxed as an infantryman, but as well as also doing the training that is required. It's just kind of off and on.
Do you know what percentage of recruits get assigned to infantry?
So the way how our jobs work is it's pretty much like a big cookie jar. We have all these different programs with all these different jobs, and then whatever, depending on what you score on the Armed Service Vocational Aptitude Battery Test, that kind of shows you what jobs you have available to yourself. And if it's a job that we have here available for our poolies in Indianapolis, then we can assign that job. But like I kind of said, really about 20% of our jobs are combat oriented. That doesn't just include infantry, it does include like combat engineers and a couple other different things. But it's really that other 80% that are like non-combat oriented.
How many jobs are available in the Marine Corps?
So at the Marine Corps, we have over 350 different jobs. So there is a lot of different things that you can do. Most of our jobs are things that you see across all of the other branches. There's really only two main job fields that we don't have in the Marine Corps. Everything else we kind of have covered. Those two that we don't have covered are the medical fields and religious services fields. Those are both provided us to by the Navy, but there are different educational and benefits that you do get to be able to still pursue a degree within the medical career at least. So.
And your screening process, I assume, is similar to what it is with everybody else that we've talked to this month. With the ASVAB test, try to find a job that a candidate is qualified to do, and then plug them into it.
Yep.
Is there a long waiting list then?
So normally whenever we have an applicant, we as well want to make sure that we're screening them out on the medical side, making sure that they'd be able to pass through a system that's called Genesis, just to make sure that there's...
Is that unique to the Marine Corps?
No, it's across the entire Department of Defense.
I hadn't heard that term before.
It's just a system where they are able to see any issues that they might have had in the past, just to make sure that we're bringing in qualified applicants, and then there's not going to be any prior medical history that would be a deterrent or would hinder an applicant through their military service. But we make sure that they're medically cleared. They obviously take the ASVAB, and then after we make sure that they pass in both those regards, then they're able to come back here. We give them that list of jobs, and we get them signed up for it. So.
The waiting list, how long does that take?
Are you more referring to how long does like the normal process look for somebody? So the normal process, just because of the medical systems and different things, it could take anywhere up to 30 to 60 days to get an applicant fully qualified. It just really depends if there is going to be a holdup with something within their medical history, just getting documentations and things like that. But us as recruiters, we're always trying to be proactive to be able to assist our applicants that do want this, to make sure that it's a not a harmful process. So we try to make it as quick as possible with getting documents.
Are the same opportunities available to Marines as everybody else has talked about with college and commissioning opportunities? And
yes, there's a lot of different programs that we have to allow applicants to be able to go to college and as well as commission. One of the biggest things that we have run every year is what's called the NROTC scholarship. It's the Naval Reserve Officer Training Corps scholarship. That is a scholarship that fully pays for a 4-year bachelor's, can be within whatever study that a student likes. We don't hinder them in what they want to study. It could be an underwater basket weaving for all we care, but
just want them to get an education.
Get their education, get their bachelor's, and then afterwards they would commission as a Marine Corps officer, be able to be the leaders of Marines. As well, there's obviously, for the enlisted side, is educational benefits. With the Marine Corps, we have a pretty good system about it. We provide tuition assistance, which covers around $4,500 a year, and allows Marines to take 2 to 3 classes a semester to work on their college education in a more part-time capacity. But then as well, after 4 years within the Marine Corps, they're obviously allowed to use their GI Bill to continue their college education. There are a couple officer programs as well within the Marine Corps that are unique and for the active duty Marines, for them to be able to have a little bit of college paid for and be able to go to school full time, and then eventually commission into becoming an officer as well. So
we're out of time, Sergeant Morse, but is there anything else you'd like for us to know before we wrap up?
No, not really. I think we've kind of covered a lot of different things.
We have covered a lot.
Yeah.
I had like 3 pages of questions, so we didn't get to a lot, and I'm sure that anybody contemplating a career in the Marine Corps has even more than that.
Yeah.
You guys here every day?
Yep, we're normally here.
I mean, I've
Monday.
had trouble contacting you. What is going on with that?
I'm out there in the streets trying to find qualified applicants. I'm in high schools, or I'm roaming the streets of Kokomo trying to find our next
the high
Marines.
schools are receptive and welcoming?
Yes, the faculties of all of the high schools in our area, they are very receptive and wanting to be able to provide students new opportunities. So
good.
They're very receptive in that category. So definitely thankful for the schools that we have out here. So
well, as a community, we're thankful to have you here.
Thank you, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sergeant Morse, Staff Sergeant Morse, one of America's finest. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, sir.
God bless you. And God bless you, folks. We'll see you next week.